Hello everybody, my name's Star Raptor. Welcome back for another episode of This Week in Star Wars Canon. This is my first episode for 2017. Looking ahead, we have tons of great Star Wars content. We got episode 8, we have probably a new Battlefront game, tons of comics, a couple novels. Star Wars Rebels is finishing up its second half of season 3. So let's get started with Star Wars Rebels. So we had the two-parter called Ghosts of Geonosis. This stars Forrest Whitaker coming back to play Saw Gerrera in animated form. So what exactly was this episode about? So it is about Saw Gerrera, and he is on Geonosis after the Rebels had discovered that there was something going on in Season 2. The Rebels, particularly Bail Organa, had sent Saw Gerrera and a couple rebels, and they had gone missing. They haven't been reporting in. So that is the rebels' job. Canon, Ezra, Hera, the whole crew is to go over there and find out what's going on. So they get there and they go off and split into teams. So you have Zeb and Sabine that go and try to find the source of this electrical kind of problem that is spiking over there. But then you have Canon and Ezra and Rex as well that are going to find Saw Gerrera. So Saw Gerrera is found, and he has been trying to track down this Geonosian that has been kind of giving his squad trouble. They have actually wiped out his squad. So when it all comes down to it, they find this Geonosian, they interrogate him, and of course Saw Gerrera is using a little bit different type of kind of interrogation efforts, which the rebels don't really see that it's a very good idea to do that. They have different ideals. So, in long story short, basically the Empire comes down on them and discovers it. But in the meantime, the rebels did find out that the Empire wiped out the entire species of the Geonosians using some kind of like insecticide, pesticide stuff. And the rebels do end up getting out of there and putting the Geonosian Click-Clack, putting him back to safety. And Saw Gerrera kind of goes his own way, and the rebels go their own way. So basically, I liked the episode. It was good. It wasn't great. I had some problems with it, but first off, I want to talk about some of the better parts of this episode. First off, I like seeing the continuity of the rebels pertaining to different leaders of the rebellion. So it's always great seeing Bail Organa. I really did like the relationship between Saw Gerrera and Rex, because we know that Rex was, communicating with Saw Gerrera back in the Clone Wars when he was sent with Anakin and Ahsoka to help train him. So a lot of cool continuity there. And going back to that Clone Wars episode, there was lots of callbacks where even if you haven't watched Clone Wars, Rebels, they did a great job in these two-parter episodes to really understand who the character Saw was, how his sister Sela was killed, and how that kind of makes him more intense now. I also really did enjoy with Canon. He is getting super strong in the Force. Ever since he was blinded, he's actually growing in power. You see him actually force push Ezra over that gap, and then he also used the Force to break down this pillar to use as a makeshift bridge so that Saw and Rex could get across there. Another cool thing, as a viewer, we know, okay, the Death Star was being built over Geonosis, but obviously the rebels don't know that. But the Geonosian that they find, Click-Clack, is continually throughout the episodes drawing the circle with another circle in it. I thought that was pretty cool. They were like saying, oh, it's the egg he's carrying around, or it's the pesticide, insecticide container. But yeah, that was really funny. The differences between Saw and the rebels was portrayed really, really great in here. Again, Saw has a much more intense way of dealing with things. He uses Force, and it definitely bothers the rebels to the point where we see how he'll be the insane kind of person that he is in Rogue One. We can kind of see like where he's getting that reputation, how Mon Mothma in Rogue One was talking about him. Another cool addition to the Star Wars canon, which we haven't seen yet, are these enemies called the Rocket Troopers. So they kind of have a reminiscent helmet of an AT-AT driver, but they have rocket boosters, which is really cool. And I really like the scene with Sabine at the end of the episode there was flying around with her jetpack, just blasting the hell out of these things. And the rebels are just looking at her and going like, "Oh man, I don't even know how to react to this right now because she's kicking some serious ass." So yes, I did enjoy the episodes. A couple things I just want to talk about, which were kind of nitty gritty things that bothered me a little bit. So the Geonosian, I felt like the plot of this episode, these two episodes, kind of meandered a bit. Especially at the one point they were like running around chasing this thing. It just reminded me of something from like a kids show. Obviously, yes, this is many times I've been going over this. Yes, it's a kids show. It's on Disney XD, but it also has a greater appeal to people our age, adults. But I thought that was a little bit much. Another thing that really bothered me. So in this episode, if you guys are familiar with some of the book canon, we have this character called Ray Sloan, who was first introduced in A New Dawn. She was in the Canon comics. She's in the Aftermath trilogy. Well, there is a female character that looked just like her, commanding like the Star Destroyer. So I got super, super happy. I was like, yes, Ray Sloan's in this. And then I later found out in the credits that, you know, it's a completely different officer. So that kind of bothered me. Like, they have the opportunity to put somebody in there from canon, but they didn't. They used somebody, you know, almost exactly like her. Again, for me, it's just a nitpick kind of thing, but it was something that I got real hyped for. I'm sure we're going to see Ray Sloan, and actually I did get clarification from somebody online that she isn't a captain at this point. At this point, I believe she is a vice admiral according to the Canon comic. So she'd be commanding a pretty significant either ship or something in the Empire at this point. But yes, I really think we are probably going to get her very soon. So something else that I really didn't like was the exploration of Saw's character in relation to what he looks like in Rogue One. I feel like we were going to get some more in-depth stuff about his breathing problem, how he lost his limbs. If you looked at the Ultimate Visual Guide for Rogue One, there is a 2-page spread there, and it does say that he has the breathing problem from this insectide on Geonosis. So I guess maybe my theory is, okay, he was on that. They said he was on that planet for 2 cycles. We don't know what that is. I did get clarification from Pablo Hidalgo on Twitter saying that it just a cycle in Star Wars doesn't necessarily mean a year. It's just whatever they want to deem necessary, the creators for that point. So we don't know if Saw Gerrera has basically been there 2 weeks or 2 months or how long. So my theory is that basically over prolonged, exposure to this stuff, it's gonna eventually harm your health for the long term. So that's probably what happens. But yeah, are we getting Saw Gerrera, more Saw Gerrera? Probably. I mean, it isn't that hard for Forrest Whitaker to just be. He already went there once to the studio to record. He might have done some more lines for future episodes, so I hope that we see more. So I don't think it'll be the last of him. But yeah, that is what I thought about the return to the mid-season of Season 3 of Star Wars Rebels. What did you guys think? Make sure we talk about it in that comment section below. So next up, we have Poe Dameron number 10. This is part 3 of The Gathering story arc. So what happened last time on Poe Dameron? Basically, we left off on a huge cliffhanger where Poe Dameron was actually attacked by these guys and knocked unconscious by a stun bolt. So basically, they are all held at gunpoint. This is BB-8, C-3PO, and this mechanic called Adi. So basically, C-3PO actually saves the day because he was able to wrangle up his little droid informant guys that actually he had in hiding there. You know, he's a spy master at this time, and he actually used those droids to kind of help those guys out, which was really cool. So later on, Poe Dameron, they do run into that droid that has the information on Snoke, and they get into it, and the guy, the little droid, is saying, "I am not going to give you information until we get back to Resistance base." And unfortunately, they have to listen to this sucker droid, so they have to run back to the ship. In the meantime, we also have the story of Terex continuing, where he locked down the First Order's ship, the Carrion Spike. So in the meantime, he's going and uniting his old gang that's on this planet Kadak. And it goes more into the backstory of him through another flashback, 27 years before. He's dealing with basically becoming a lord of this gang that actually rules this entire planet Kadak. So very interesting stuff there. And it all ends up with Poe Dameron getting the droid back to the ship, and they're flying off, and then you have Agent Terex, who knows that they're leaving the planet, and he's going to assemble his entire followers to go track them down. So another hot cliffhanger that I can't wait to pick up in Poe Dameron number 11. So a couple things I just want to talk about in more detail was just the whole fact that C-3PO is a spy master, so we actually did get to see that. That is really cool because we've been hearing about it in the books and in some of the comics, and now we get to finally see him put that into action, and he does a pretty damn good job of, you know, commanding these droids. He's very hesitant about doing it, but if it's to save somebody's life, he kind of has to do it. Another thing I found was really cool was another callback to the prequels, in that the droid that has the data for about the First Order and Snoke and all is actually a commando droid from the Clone Wars, so it's cool to see that little connection there. Another thing that's interesting to note about that particular droid is he has this kind of self-preservation about him, which we're not really used to seeing about droids. Like, they're usually very expendable, but C-3PO actually programmed all these droids to help him out, and basically he put this thing in there to basically say if anybody tampers with this droid, then he automatically wipes the data. So the droid, unless he knows he's perfectly safe, he is not going to give them the information. That means that they have to get back to the Resistance base. Another thing I really liked, again, was Terex's history. I think Terex is actually the best thing about this whole comic series so far. We're not getting, unfortunately, that much information about Poe Dameron as I'd like to see. But as far as for what's going on with these different cells of the old Empire creating the First Order, it's really, really fascinating. So we see that he's not even caring about the First Order at this point. Like, he locked down his ship and just completely disregards his crew, because they're all, you know, he's been around for a while. These guys are all these newer people, kind of like around Hux's age. They don't really have much experience, but he does. And I like how they're constantly going back into flashbacks. And he even takes out his old friend that helped him get off of Geonosis. Like, this guy is brutal and ruthless, and he just eventually finds out that the Empire is no more. There will be no Empire. You know, through the last couple of issues, he's been kind of fighting that the Empire can still be alive. In this issue, he finally gets to understand that, yes, they're not there anymore. And once he understands that, he basically gets all these people and has them follow him, and they eventually kind of worship him as the Lord, and they kind of bring him gifts and stuff. And that's when he finds out about the First Order, is that one of his people actually brings him a First Order helmet, and then I guess the rest is history. He contacts them somehow. But it's really interesting to note because, and this is back to the current times, when Poe Dameron is attempting to flee with this informative droid, Terex actually has this like planet-wide communication that basically says, I am your Lord Terex, you must get these guys and there will be a reward. So he has that much power, he can command this entire planet to help him out. And finally, one thing I want to talk about is that last comic page. There we have Terex, who walks into this hangar bay to go and find a ship of his choosing, and there's about 50 ships, I want to say. Everything ranging from X-Wings to TIE Fighters, TIE Strikers, Y-Wings. I think I've seen a B-Wing in there. This guy has so much stuff. We've already seen he was collecting like Death Trooper helmets and stuff, so this guy really, really loves the Empire. Alright, so that's going to do it for my thoughts on Poe Dameron number 10. What did you guys think? I want to hear it. Let me know in the comment section below. Also, if you aren't subscribed to my channel, please do so you don't miss another video. Speaking of a recent video, I have just uploaded George Lucas A Life, my thoughts on that biography by Brian J. Jones. It's really good. You guys should check it out. So thank you all for watching. I'm Star Raptor, and may the Force be with you always. So, did you like the video? Then make sure you rate it a thumbs up, and if you did that, go over there, hit that Star Raptor head to subscribe to my channel. Doing so will keep you up to speed on all of my latest content. Speaking of which, you can see a couple of my recent uploads down below. I'm also on social media, so what are you waiting for? Let's start nerding out.